Well, amid the rising tensions in West Asia, US President Joe Biden said that the US is working towards calming the situation in Lebanon.
Of course, this is after the Israeli airstrikes on Hezbollah targets across Lebanon. Now, the United States is sending a small number of additional troops to the region. This is what the Pentagon has declared and shared. The announcement coincides with growing concerns of a wider regional conflict, with Israel hitting hundreds of targets in Lebanon in what is by far the deadliest cross-border escalation in almost a year of violence between Israel and Hezbollah.
The United States already has thousands of troops in the region, as well as warships, fighter jets and air defense systems. These have been deployed to protect both its forces and Israel. Well, Pentagon spokesperson Major General Pat Ryder warned of the potential for the Israel-Hezbollah violence to escalate and also called for a diplomatic solution.
International powers have pleaded with Israel and Hezbollah to retreat from the verge of full-scale conflict, and this as the focal point of violence has shifted from Israel's southern front with Gaza to its northern border with Lebanon in recent days. Tensions have been escalating in West Asia. Of course, this is something we've been reporting about regularly, Resha. It's not from now. It's since October last year that fears of a larger war across West Asia have been looming, and things have only escalated from one front towards the south of Israel. Now it's towards the north of Israel with its northern neighbor, Lebanon.
Right, Shivan. This is the deadliest conflict in Lebanon since 2006, where Israel has claimed that it struck at least 1,600 Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon, and at least 500 civilians have been killed in Lebanon. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has launched more than 200 rockets into Israel.
Now, there are long-range weapons also being used by Lebanon to target deeper inside Israel. Now, Israel is a nation which is carrying out these attacks. Several of them are preemptive. They're not retaliatory in nature. So a lot of these attacks are being done even if they have a hint of an attack coming in from the Lebanese side. Things do not seem to be calming down anytime soon. And of course, the US is having a tough time bringing all of this into a certain state of calm. We're now being joined by Dr. Avner Cohen, who's a professor of non-proliferation and terrorism studies, Middlesbrough Institute. He's joining us live from California in the US. Dr. Cohen, thank you so much for making time and joining us. Always a pleasure getting your insights on trending issues. So, of course, Lebanon and Israel from the south shift seems to have now happened completely towards the north of Israel. Is this the start of a large-scale war which is going to engulf other parts of West Asia as well? Do you see it that way?
It's difficult to say. There is, so to speak, an effort to have controlled escalation. Israel is trying to double its attack, to escalate in order to force Hezbollah to reach some kind of arrangement. It has been escalated. It's very close to a war. Some say it's already a war, but there are still some limits. In other words, it's not a war without constraints. How far it would go at this point, it's difficult to say. Israel, except a very effort to have targeted hit at some Hezbollah leaders, has avoided so far Beirut, in particular the Doha area, which is where the Hezbollah is located. And so far, Hezbollah has avoided central Israel, including Tel Aviv. So it's uncertain. And it's unclear how it could be unfolded. It's a certain kind of effort of both sides to force each other to concessions, and it's unclear how it could unfold.
Yes, Dr. Cohen, what we've seen of both sides, I think aggression has not been the way to get either side to concede to anything. So, of course, it only seems to be heading towards more escalations in times to come.
Right. Dr. Cohen, news just coming in that the ex-CIA chief has said that we are clearly walking into a much wider war, something which you've also just outlined here. But I want to seek your assessment on the role of the United States of America in all of this and the impact of rising tensions between Israel and Hezbollah, how will that impact a Gaza ceasefire deal, which has perhaps been Biden's top priority before he leaves the office later in November? And do you think that the events that we've seen in the region in the last 48 hours has perhaps quickly moved out of U.S. control?
It's also unclear. So far, and somewhat surprisingly, we have seen very limited American action. Essentially just talks, not action, and not even a forceful talk. Apparently, the United States has asked Israel or pushed Israel not to start any ground operation, and such operation there is no sign that it's about to start anytime soon. Israel does not have enough force in the Galilee to start a ground operation. So much of the fighting, essentially almost the entire fighting, aside from artillery exchanges, is by the Israeli Air Force. And as I said, there are still constraints. The United States is a very precarious period because it's just 45 or less than 45 days before the election. There is a great deal of sensitivity not to hurt the campaign of Vice President Harris. So the White House has avoided very much taking any strong action. How far it will go, it's open questions. Also, we know that they have pushed some forces back towards the Middle East, trying to give some sense of assurance or some sense of deterrence to others not to intervene.
There's an increase in US forces.
I think we are, just to finish this, we have moved to uncharted territories. The Israelis are working by philosophy of we'll do with power. If power does not satisfy, does not meet it's our request, we'll have more power. How far this can go, it's an open question, difficult to say.
It's definitely uncharted territory, as you rightly pointed out. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Abner Cohen, Professor of Non-Proliferation and Terrorism Studies, joining us from California. Always a pleasure speaking with you, sir.
Thank you.